So I just finished reading this book called Attached. You might have heard of it. You might have read it yourself. My friend bought it for me for my birthday a few weeks ago. And as I was reading it, I thought I have to make a video about this book. The premise of the book is basically about how as human beings, we have attachment styles when it comes to relationships, particularly romantic relationships, and how we show and receive affection and love, and that we are wired based on those attachment styles, and that they completely affect the kind of relationships we get in, how we feel in those relationships, and how we treat the other party in those relationships. So basically there's 3 attachment styles that psychologists see literally in children in infancy. The 3 are secure attachment, which is about half of the population. So that would be like, you know, a toddler is playing with toys, the mom walks out of the room, the child notices, starts to panic, then the parent comes back and they feel good, and everything goes back to normal. Then there's the anxious attachment style, which would be the kid, same exact thing, the kid freaks out because the parent leaves the room, the parent comes back, and now the kid is still frazzled even though the parent has come back. The kid is resentful, might like scream at the parent, okay? And then the third attachment style is the avoidant attachment style. So that would be parent leaves the room and the kid is like, all right, that's the general synopsis. But the idea is that we carry this into adulthood. So stereotypical example would be, you know, the anxious attachment person is the sort of obsessed girlfriend that's like, why hasn't he called me? Where is he? And then she just keeps calling the boyfriend. And let's say the boyfriend is the avoidant attachment style, which would be, you know, he sees that the girlfriend is calling and he's like, oh my God, she's so clingy. Like, I don't want to deal with her right now. So he puts up a wall, that wall is felt by the girlfriend, and so she's in full anxiety mode, and the argument would be like the secure attachment style, which is about half of the population according to data and research. The secure attachment style person would be like, all right, he must be busy if he's not answering my phone. You know, I'll put the ball in his court, he can get back to me when he feels like it. That would be that attachment style. So reading this has been interesting for me because I think whenever you frame something like human behavior, human psychology, it's easier to kind of assess things from a cerebral, logical, rational perspective, which I think is important so that we don't come straight from a reactive and emotional perspective. So when you look at the idea of these attachment styles and you look at your own relationships, you're like, oh, it really is them. It's not me. Like, that one person that I just didn't understand why he would put up a wall and like, what was I doing wrong? It helps, I think, individuals reading this book realize like that person is probably that way with everybody. Like you are not the one who's doing something wrong. So this kind of relates actually to the Love Languages book that you might have also heard of or also read yourself that I made a book review about, I want to say like 4 or 6 months ago. That book, again, very helpful in sort of realizing like people have a different way of showing and receiving love and affection. And just because it's not how you do, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with them. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with your relationship. A lot of this really boils down to empathy, being open to how somebody else processes things and figuring out if that works for you in that dynamic. And if it doesn't, like there's no need to torture yourself about it. You communicate, you see if there's room to grow together. And if there isn't, you should probably move on to the next thing. My criticism though of this book Attached is that I feel like it overly simplifies some of these issues and conflicts in relationships. So for example, there's this scenario in the book where they talk about this girlfriend and boyfriend, and the guy is just horrible to her. These are like real life cases from therapy sessions, and there's this couple, and she at one point tells the boyfriend, like, I'm not even sure why you're into me. Like, she really puts all the insecurities out there, and he's like, oh, you're just like my only option right now. And the book claims like, oh, well, the issue here is she has the anxious attachment style and he has the avoidant attachment style. But reading it, I was like, this guy just sounds like a textbook narcissist who is looking for like a victim to keep under his thumb. So in a sense, I felt like reducing everything to these 3 attachment styles is a little too simplistic, and it's like too easy to categorize people as you're 1, 2, 3, one of these. Personally, because they have a quiz inside the book so that you can figure out what your attachment style is. When I was going through that, I was like, at times I feel like I could have been defined like by one situation. I could have been seen as an avoidant attachment style. With this other case, I was textbook anxious personality style. In this other case, I feel like I was secure personality or attachment style. So, I mean, the book does say that it can change over time, but that most people don't, and that it's malleable, but it's not like you're going to change every year to a different style. To me, it seems like people are more malleable than the book makes it out to be. I do think, depending on where you are in life, like that chapter in your life, what's going on in your life, there are times where you would be more susceptible to, let's say, an abusive relationship or attracting somebody who keeps sending you mixed signals or whatever. And then there's other times where you're not even open to a relationship. And I don't think that means that you're the avoidant attachment style. I just think there's a lot more layers than the book makes it out to be that way. But again, I think it's still helpful for people to keep this in mind. I mean, when I was reading the book, as I'm sure for those of you who have read this book, I'm sure you did the same thing of you read certain examples and you're like, that reminds me of this one person. Like, you start diagnosing people in your own life. There are definitely people I've met who are textbook one of these 3 attachment styles. But I do think there's more gray area with most people. That's just my take. If you've read the book, I would love to hear your feedback. If you know about this subject, I want to know what your diagnosis is for yourself. Like, if you took the quiz, what is your attachment style? According to the book, it's 50% a secure attachment style in society. About a quarter, it has the avoidant attachment style, and about another quarter has the anxious attachment style.